Bonjour, everyone. Welcome. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 9:04 a.m. First, I'd like to start us off with the invocation. We have Vern Adams here with the invocation. Whitburn. Much appreciated. Personally, I'd like to thank you. It really alleviated a lot of stress that I was holding. Next, I'd ask for Nikki to take roll call.
Carlos Hernandez,
Here.
Tara Gishik. Here. Shane Drift,
Oma, here.
Perry Drift,
Insha Mapapaya.
and Robert Moyer.
Here. Next, I'd have the RTC review the agenda. Also ask if there's any addition or deletions.
I'd like to add a follow-up from a discussion that we had at a previous council meeting. It was before you were sworn into office, Chairman Hernandez. It was a discussion on restructuring the RTC meeting. And what I proposed at that time was that we use one RTC meeting per quarter for just financial updates to the band members. Now, in order for that to happen, the tribal council will have to address the data privacy stuff regarding the financial information to reclassify as what can be released and shared openly and what needs to stay protected. And I know that we talked with Jeff about it, and that's one of the things that he recommended on doing, our tribal attorney. And I think that we should still proceed forward with doing something like that. The other reservations are doing that. White Earth is doing that. I do believe Mille Lacs is doing that.
Sounds good. What is the name of the item that you'd like to add to the agenda?
It is restructuring the RTC meeting discussion. And also the other thing is a budget discussion. I have two items I would like to add to the agenda. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Miranda, is my items on the agenda still right?
No, it is not. You will need to add it.
I would like to add my complaint against another sitting RTC member. I'd like to add that to the agenda too, near the end, to disclose to the people.
Is there any other items that'd like to be added to the agenda by council? There's no other additions or deletions. I call for a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of restructuring the RTC meeting discussion, budget discussion, the complaint by Perry Drift. Move to approve. Moved by Robert,
Second.
second by Tara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Additions approved. Approval of agenda. It's passed. And next we move to approval of meeting minutes. So first we have June 10th, if you can review June 10th, 2025.
I'd like to talk about the meeting minutes from June 10, 2025. You scroll down to page 2 of 3. Where on May 22nd, 2025, during a public RTC meeting, District 1 Representative Perry Drift engaged in a disruptive behavior and dereliction of duties by raising his voice and interrupting presenters, all causing a threatening and intimidating environment for council members, staff, band members attending the meeting. First off, I didn't know what happened. I was sitting there where you're sitting, and I looked up and I saw Perry standing there, and I looked over at Robert and I said, "What's going on? What happened?" He looked at me and he said, "I don't know either." So just to make that clarification, I didn't know what happened. I wasn't scared. I wasn't intimidated. So that statement needs to be revised. On May 27th, 2025, during an informal meeting with RTC and in response to RTC Secretary Treasurer Terry Giesick informing him that she planned to bring a second censure motion for his conduct during the RTC meeting, District 1 Representative Perry Drift raised his voice and made badgering and insulting comments to Secretary Treasurer Terry Giesick, restricting her from speaking and creating a threatening and hostile working environment. Now, with that, I must point out that Perry was online. And that statement that the tribal council put out doesn't clarify that. Perry was online just like the people are now. And we were sitting upstairs in that room. And I do believe at that time I asked for statements to be gathered, and I do believe that meeting was recorded. And the reason why I asked for statements to be gathered was to get a better understanding of what actually happened. And at that time, the council wanted to move forward with the censorship, and I stayed out of it. So if that's what you guys want to do, then that's what we'll do. So, and if that meeting is recorded, I'd like a chance to review it again.
Copy that. And is that regarding this right now? It's meeting minutes on the May 27th that you're talking about?
Yep.
Okay. Sounds good. You'd like your comments added to what's going on right now?
I'm just addressing the meeting minutes on.
Okay.
And are we gonna anybody else gonna make comments, or are we gonna approve those ones, or go to the next one?
I'd just like to add, I stand by what I wrote there. Whatever your reasons are for wanting to revise, that doesn't negate what went on and what I wrote down, because that happened. It happened the way I said it did.
Copy that. And then like on the first one too, you had mentioned that you didn't know what happened, or you didn't notice what happened. So I don't know if we can change the comments on it because you didn't see it, but obviously it happened. It's in the minutes.
Throughout our process, when something happens, when an incident happens, there's always gathering of statements, from what I understand. And I asked that question before, how does it happen when HR does their investigation?
Sounds
And
good.
there's always statements gathered with the incident.
It's always a hard process though, when it's always, even in, if we were in law enforcement, it's hard to have people write off a statement and sign their name to it, especially when they're scared of repercussions. So a lot of times people are not willing to write their name down, even if they were in the room and the meeting was recorded. So I'm not sure why statements are needed when the meeting was recorded.
So basically, you three push the narrative, and then whatever you guys say is official on Facebook and through public outlets. Then there's no due process here. There's no statements. It's just a few select people pushing a narrative about me that I guess everything that you three say goes then, so.
Copy that. Is that regarding these minutes right now? Because we're talking about the minutes right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been a cop for 32 years. I've been a federal cop, a state cop, and a tribal cop. And when you say people don't want to talk, then it's an incomplete investigation. I think you were a cop, Carlos, so you probably understand that anything, even it's an administrative investigation or a criminal investigation, if statements aren't gathered, then it's an incomplete investigation. Okay? So just to clarify that.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Pete Drift, Senior, Voice for Tribal Member Elder.
Much appreciated.
I'd like to reflect that this is not an investigation. It was my observance of what happened. You all were there. Shane, you were right next to me. I don't understand where the confusion is, and I still stand by what happened. It doesn't negate.
My statement that I just stated stands, so it's on record. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane.
Mr. Chairman, if I can provide a little bit information. That was a request by Representative Drift at a weekly meeting. We discussed it in the weekly meeting, myself and council members present. And from my understanding, the council decided not to move forward with the statements in the weekly meeting.
I did not make that statement. I asked for statements, so there wasn't on me. When you say the council, you're referring to the whole council, and it was just certain members. It wasn't me. I asked for statements. So if you could correct yourself, that'd be great. Thank you.
Can we take this, can we talk about this later? I mean, I'd like to get up to speed on what's going on here, and not right here though, in front of people who are waiting for this business to be attended to. So we could talk about this later. Right now, we're talking about the minutes and moving forward.
Can we table the minutes and let everybody raise their questions here, and set up something? I mean, I'd move the table, the June 10th and July 2nd minutes to.
Sounds good. We got a motion to table the minutes until further review.
Second.
Motion by Robert, second by Shane. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried to table the minutes until further review. All right. Next, we're moving on to the consent agenda. Or since we added those items, is it later on at the end? Okay.
Did we just table the June 10th meeting, or did we also table the July 2nd?
Robert had asked for both meetings or both meeting minutes to get carried.
Okay.
I'd like to review them too, because there's,
Just want to clarify. Thank you.
okay, thank you. First item on the agenda is our consent agenda.
Actually, what I need to request is that to make sure that these meeting minutes are on the next meeting agenda. Because I have more questions regarding the second set, July 2nd, 2025 meeting. I have a lot more questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to read the consent agenda?
Yes, please.
Under the consent agenda, letter A, purchase of 4 EV charging stations from ZEF Energy. In favor 3, against 0, silent 0. Letter B, amendment number 1 to contract for Safe Streets for All, changing contract end date from June 30th, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. All in favor 3, against 0, silent 0. Letter C, amendment number 2 to the MDE JPA-curricular resources to support indigenous education for all. All in favor 3, against 0, silent 0. Letter D, 4th addendum to Saydee Whitebird contract for Cannabis Regulatory Commission Director. All in favor 4, against 0, silent 0.
All right, these were all approved before prior. I was in one of these. So I call for a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Move.
Moved by Robert,
Second,
second by Tara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
I just need to say something about the last one, the addendum for Saydee Whitebird. She has done great work on getting our cannabis dispensary up and running, and also Paxton and his crew have done a phenomenal job. And pushing forward and making sure that our dispensaries are out. Thank you.
Nice, thank you. I haven't met Sadie, but I hear good things and she did get working on that, updating our COAs for our dispensary pretty quick, so she is working well. I'd like to meet her one day. Next on the agenda is Kim Greiner. She's going to be talking to us about a tribal opioid settlement participation form and looking for authorization for me to sign.
Good morning. With the opioid epidemic, there's been a lot of class action lawsuits, and the tribes several years ago entered into a kind of a class action lawsuit. And so there's someone that represents the tribes. And so probably about 2023, we started getting some settlements. This is just another, I think it's one or two manufacturers. Actually, there's a couple listed in there that are settling. And so we get a small portion of that. You can see the settlement of these manufacturers on the memo from the settlement administrator is that the settlement is $70,738,204, but that's for all tribes. And then they have a formula that they push it out. So we get a small amount of that. And so this has been an ongoing thing. And so as it waives some of our rights, and one of them is that we're not going to go back and sue on our own to the manufacturers. And so because we're waiving some of our rights, we have to present it to the council. The council gives permission and for the chair to sign. I want to say when I looked yesterday, our percent of that is like 0.082%. You know, so like I said, ours is small because we're a small tribe and stuff. But over the time before this settlement, we have received $466,542.67 in settlements. And there's still some ongoing. There's a couple of the big ones are in, the big one that I can think of is Purdue, and they're in bankruptcy. So, you know, all that stuff's working its way through courts. Jeff has reviewed, it's a standard form that we've had to sign for all of them. And then what happens is we send this in, and once 85% of the tribes agree to it, then they'll just, if they do it before, if they choose to participate before September 1st, payment will arrive sometime in October.
Question that I have is that, what was the amount of money again that was coming through?
Well, we've already received $466,542.67, and that's set aside in a separate fund by itself.
And who does that go to? HHS?
Yes.
And do we know what they're using it for?
They have a few ideas, Dan, and there's restrictives. There's only certain activities it can be used on, and it's around like substance abuse and mental health, some stuff like that. I believe when we discussed it yesterday, they haven't used any of it yet, but they're thinking of using it for mental health related stuff with substance abuse.
I know the reading upon the that's description in there that it's restricted just to
Yep.
opioid stuff. But any plans, and is there any plans or detailed plans you have, Dan, regarding how this is gonna be spent and utilized?
At this point, we don't have any definitive plans. Any plans that we have for the use of that, as I discussed with Kim, would be presented at tribal council as part of our budget planning for 2026. At this point, we have not needed it, so we have not just allocated it to any particular place. And when it comes time for us to make the request to put those funds into one of the programs, we will do so, and we'll bring it to the council's attention.
Now, with this pot of money that you have, is there indirect costs that's taken out of it, or is it allowed, or?
It would be allowed. It depends on what they spend it on, if it's something that's subject to indirect. So like if they hired a person that, salaries and benefits are subject to indirect. But let's say they built a building, I'm just using two opposite things. Buildings, big construction projects are not subject to indirect.
I myself would like to see that money utilized for what it's intended for, rather than take indirect out of it. Just my opinion. Thank you.
So you'd like it used for construction?
So if they use it for salaries and we don't charge it indirect, the council has to pay the portion of indirect. The indirect doesn't go away. Someone has to cover that. But it all depends on what they use it for, and when we get there, it'll be part of the presentation.
We've
Mhm.
already been participating and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. That was my one question. Is there any cons to this though? That you saw?
No, because we could not, as a small entity, we couldn't afford to sue them individually
Right, okay.
because they have the big war chest. They can just tie it up in litigation, and they'd rather spend the money on litigation than settling, so.
Looking for a motion to approve the participation form and authorization to sign. Moved by Shane,
Second.
second by Tara. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any silent? All right, motion carried. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate it. Well, next we got Tom Spears and Brian Whiteman. They're going to talk about the purchase of 2 transit vans. I wanted to bring out to the attention next week. On the Vermilion side, they're going to have a wigwam building at Anishinaabe Culture Camp. It's actually going to be a 2-week project or 2-week, program going on. They're going to be constructing wigwams, and they got it broken down by daily events. They're going to have presentations, and like Chaz Wagner is going to be doing a drum teaching. They're going to have a presentation on hunting and gathering, how to butcher a deer, how to tanning hides, deer tanning, and then looks like they're going to also have a cook over a fire. Make sure to check that out. Information can be found. Looks like KBFT is going to be sponsoring that one. Online, that's going to be next week, starting Monday, the 21st. Next up is Tom and Brian. Thank you.
Good morning, council.
Good morning.
Again, I'm Tom Spears, Big Woods Transit Manager. I do apologize for not having a written briefing of the request for the side entry conversion vans. We are requesting approval for purchase and the budget. I did not have that attached to the request when I had sent it in, but we are seeking approval to purchase these 2 side entry conversion vans. They fit 6 passengers, 2 wheelchair total. And the reason for it is We do have the large cutaway. Some of the other buses we have are getting older, but these ones are a little more cost friendly, I guess. Yeah. There's times when we have one or two passengers that we have to pick up on any given route. And we send out one of those huge cutaways that fit up to 12 or even some are 20, but regardless, I think it would be better to have the smaller option in those cases where, you know, you have those one or two passengers and it's within the budget spending as well. Out of grant number 5311C.
Okay. So you already have that in your budget. It's in your covered by grant. You're not asking for council for anything?
No, I mean, we're not asking council for nothing. It's in our budget.
It's all within that 53 tribal discretionary budget.
Thank you for getting the 3 quotes. I like that.
Question I have is, you know, with the current fleet that you guys have now, with the buses now, and you're bringing in 2 more, and we've already had a discussion, but for our band members that are listening and all that, is your budget able to sustain the current fleet that you have and the 2 more that you're getting?
Yes,
It will, but we are discontinuing 3 buses, minus the fleet, because
Mhm.
they're past their expiration date for miles and years,
useful life.
it's a useful life.
Okay,
So that's why we're taking 3 off the line. You'll be back to 14.
Mhm.
okay. I move to approve.
Move to approve by Shane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Robert to purchase, to approve the purchase of 2 trans vans. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? All right, motion carried. Thank you, guys.
Groovy. Appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you.
And next we have Doris Isham. She's coming up to talk about ANA SEDS grant.
Good morning. A few weeks ago, the announcement for a funding opportunity for a SEDS application came out. And what the SEDS is supporting economic development for Native Americans communities agency. And what it's requesting is applications that are through the ANA organization for the SEDS application. Get that straight. So what it's asking for is project-specific funding and not ongoing program, but with a focus to fund community-driven projects that grow local economies, support community-based businesses, strengthen Native American families, preserve Native American cultures, and increase social development and infrastructure in Native American communities. And so the reason why I don't have the application included in my agenda request is, like I said, the announcement for the grant came out just a few short weeks ago. I attended pre-application training a week and a half ago. And through the course of that training, learned the different kind of programs that this agency will fund. And so knowing that some of the nutrition food programs are cut under the current federal administration, I'm working with these 2 ladies and developing a feasibility or a not a feasibility, but a food sovereignty program. And so the grant can be written for 3 years for a total of $900,000. And so I've asked these two young ladies to explain what the program is going to be about. And so I'll turn it over to them and just let them tell you what we're working on the program for.
Morning, Council. Yes, so our SNAP-Ed funding is being cut. And so we reached out to Doris and other sources to find different grants to continue our amazing work that we do for our community. And so these grants that we're finding are going to focus more on that food sovereignty and the traditional food practices. And we did establish the food sovereignty program back in November 2024. And so what we wrote this grant our objectives for this grant is to do community outreach and education. We'll do processing, harvest foods, and we'll do community and household self-sustainability. And I guess, let's see.
Going off of the food sovereignty program, we have taken steps through the months to progress the program. We brought back to the greenhouse a few months ago. The ball's really rolling on that, and should be done, by winter. And just with that, we had a lot of big goals, ambitions for the tribe before we even found out the grant, was being cut. But we're happy to find these sources to continue on our goals that we have set for many years after, this year at the food sovereignty program. I think it'd be a very beneficial opportunity in the sense that that's not great news, but we're able to continue our good work for the tribe.
So according to the census, we have a 30% people that are below the poverty rate. And so our goal is to help people to become less dependent on programs such as the SNAP program. We are aiming the grant at teaching people, besides the gardening techniques, but also safe food storage and using more of our traditional foods. And so at the end of the 36 months, we hope that at least 25% of the population will fill out a satisfactory survey stating that they are less dependent on food programs such as SNAP. And so this program is very ambitious. They're going to be working with teaching people how to safely can, freeze, and cold storage foods besides growing them, and also teach people how to process things like deer meat, because a lot of the young people don't know how to actually butcher a deer and the different parts of the deer, what it's used for. Maybe they have never cleaned a duck. They'll learn how to clean the duck and how to safely store it, and also fillet fish. I myself don't know how to fillet fish good, and so we'll be teaching those kind of things besides going out in the woods for looking for berries and things of that nature. And so we're writing the grant for $900,000. There's a match, a 20% match of $225,000 that is going to be provided by the state, a state program that Terry Morrison has within her program. And so there will be no cost directly to the tribal council. And so I have this resolution for your consideration, and I'll just briefly read it quickly read it for the sake of the audience. And I'll skip down to the third whereas. The United States Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Native Americans has announced the availability of funding under the Social and Economic Development Strategies Program to support social and economic development for Native American communities and provide project-specific funding with a focus on community-driven projects that promote the social and economic self-sufficiency of American Indians. And whereas the band is eligible to seek grant funds through the program as a federally recognized tribe, and whereas the band intends to seek funding to establish a food sovereignty program, and whereas the RTC believes that submission of a grant application for the SEDS program and commitment to the cost match needed to support the application as described below is in the best interest of the band and its members. Now therefore it be resolved that the RTC hereby endorses the submission of an application for grant funding under the SEDS program. 2, confirms that the RTC as the governing body of the band is an entity authorized to apply for, receive, and administer the award. And 3, authorizes the RTC chairman, Carlos Hernandez, to execute the grant application and any other documentation required for successful completion and submission of the application. And be it further resolved that the grant, should the grant be awarded, the RTC does hereby commit a total of up to $225,000 of matching funds, which could include eligibility in-kind matches to fulfill the required cost match for the project funded. So I present that as for your consideration.
Very thorough. I appreciate
that?
that. I said it's very thorough. Thorough, and I'm sold, especially that match. I move to approve if there isn't any further discussion. Move to approve the submission of the ANA SEDS grant along with the match coming from HHS.
Second.
Which ladies?
Carlos,
Thank you.
Carlos, just for recording purposes, it's gonna be resolution 15/2026.
Resolution 15/2026.
15/2026.
15/2026.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Miranda.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing for the agenda.
Thank you. All right, next we're gonna have a discussion. Restructuring the RTC meeting discussion that Shane wants to speak about.
Yes, thank you. I brought this up before in a previous meeting as to restructure our RTC meetings and once per quarter, just to hold an RTC meeting for a financial update to the band members. And, we're talking with Jeff and how we go about getting that done is basically saying what's protected, what's not protected financially so that we can share with the band members. And I think that is still a good idea that we should be doing that. And I would like to see us pursue that and make that happen, make it happen.
So you're requesting, instead of what is going on now, once a year at the State of the Band financial meeting, once per quarter, so once every 4 months financial meeting, instead of just like now, the ones at the State of the Band.
This would actually be, yes, it would be in conjunction with what happens at the State of the Band. There'd also be 4 individual meetings, just like if today would be like a financial meeting.
Okay.
It'd be nothing but financial stuff, just updating the band members of everything of what's going on.
So this would be an open meeting quarterly, kind of like that's at the State of the Band, but a quarterly meeting for the band members. Okay, just like at the state of the band.
That's something that, we're gonna need to talk about with Jeff, and Jeff, could you come up here and clarify um the process that we need to go through to make this work? Thank you.
Okay.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I mean, from a legal standpoint, like the data privacy or confidentiality, the biggest issue is like, so right now the band has a data privacy ordinance, and for the most part, on the business side and the government side, the two big financial pieces that are available to band members are audit information, so anything that's within an annual audit, and then also adopted budget information. And so if the council wanted to do quarterly band member financial updates, if it just included information that would be in a budget or the audit, then there wouldn't need to be any change because that's already information available to band members under the data privacy ordinance. If the council wanted to go into more detail or release or discuss or disclose additional information, that's doable. It would just mean a resolution under the data privacy ordinance to clarify that that's going to be disclosed information. Some of that's likely protected, private, or confidential, but the council always has the ability to recategorize or amend that if it wanted to disclose it. So I think the first question is, if council wants to do these meetings, what do you want to disclose? What does that look like? And then on the back end, we would decide, is a resolution needed to recategorize anything based on what the council thinks should be disclosed in the meetings?
I have a few comments and I'd like to call up Kim just to make sure that that accounting, I have them working extremely hard right now, and focused. So I just want to make sure that we can accommodate this and that we have, enough staff and to be prepared. Also, I just like it noted that the data privacy ordinance and additional information that is partially protected or protected, we're already discussing that for the community meeting. We're already got that rolling, for the community financial meeting. So that's already being worked out. The extension that we were going to have for that community meeting.
Yeah.
And it was authorized by all of us.
And we have been talking because we had a meeting upstairs and we talked about it. Part about the data privacy and timing. Right now, it's cumbersome to get a big presentation like I do for the State of the Band, because those of who have attended mine is really long and I have a lot of detail. And so right now it'd be limited. We're trying to keep something. A few of us have been kind of throwing some ideas around about what to present and how to present it in a format understandable for non-accountants. Because sometimes, like myself, I think everybody's an accountant and talk like everybody knows what I'm talking about. So, breaking it down for so people understand and comprehend. And keeping it simple. And then when we move to the new system, it'll be much, much easier. We can run a simple report, it consolidated. Because right now we have in excess of 300 and some programs on the system, and they're all have different fiscal year ends, and you have to take and consolidate all that information to come up with something. And we're really focusing on catching up on our backlog and getting the new system up and running. So we've talked about dates too. I think upstairs we had discussed a date and stuff.
I have a question. Roughly, how much was that software again to help assist our accounting?
I want to say 600 or 700,000 for 4 or 5 years.
And then, does it matter with the data that you input into the system? Does it matter? Okay, so if you had the software up and running right away
Uh-huh.
and you input all our current financial data, does it make a difference if you have the system up and running first, or do you have to put the data in as you go along?
So on that question, we're going to do a data extract off of what's called our legacy system. And we're on works with IBM Avenue Insights, which is a software, and our new software, Tyler Technology. It all has to be mapped. And so you have to develop workflows, a new account, you have to tell the data where to go and stuff. So like if we were to switch systems and not import anything, we would only be able to get what's on the system. But we're going back importing 5 years. That's the max we could they'll allow to be brought in. So we're bringing in 5 years. So you can do comparative reports and everything. There's going to be a lot of data. It gets overwhelming some days working on it.
How many meetings have you had so far? I'm sorry to ask that. Because we know it's huge.
Well, because it's in there's different segments. So there's what's called the HRIS, which is Human Resources Information System. And I would say they've probably had 30 to 40 working meetings on it. And they're going live October 1st. And on our side, we have far more areas, and we probably had 30 to 40 meetings, and these meetings are all day long. They're like 8-hour meetings, and then you have homework you got to go do. And so we're going live January 1st. And so ours is really ramping up on the financial side. Then, the next 4 months. And as we add areas, that adds more, but there's more than just the finance, there's like, I'm trying to think, we had a security meeting last Friday on security and rights and who has access to how you set up people and who has access, and what they can do. We've had.
I don't need you to list out each and every
Yeah.
meeting. It's just,
Yeah,
it's
it's comprehensive.
expensive to install
Yeah.
this. And it's been thought of over, geez, my first day on, we started with exploring that software. So
Yeah,
it's been 3 years of working on this to
Yeah.
get it to go live. It's a lot of work. And I am so sorry that I'm pushing,
Yeah.
and
No,
I
I understand.
appreciate you guys working so hard on this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so Shane, I'd like to clarify, you're requesting we restructure the RTC meeting to include or change one of our meetings to be quarterly financial meetings. You said just like this?
Yes, and we don't need to make this process cumbersome.
Mhm.
You take the yearly report that you provided for, should be break it into 4 parts, simplified. And like we get monthly updates from Boise Bay. And so we don't need this whole process to be bogged down, cumbersome, and try to find ways not to make it work. I think we need to find ways to make it work for our band members, period.
Yeah, I'm not saying we have to come to what level we want to present and stuff, but because like my state of the band is very comprehensive, so they can see the whole year in progress.
And then Jeff, I think we would need to revise our bylaws to include that, or do we leave the bylaws alone and just change the agenda? You know what I mean? Because in the bylaws for us, for Boys Fort RTC, it's annual.
Right. The state of the band is annual. I mean, I think anytime you revise the bylaws, you're really solidifying something into band law. The bylaws is a really foundational document. So it's always possible to amend it. You'd need public notice before you amend it as well. So you can certainly do that. I think another option would be to through a resolution or through formal action, adopt a plan for financial meetings, execute it. And if it works really well, or you're ironing out issues with it, then maybe you think about solidifying it in bylaws a little bit later.
Yeah.
So that would be an option.
So council, I have maybe a suggestion for consideration. We do have the regular tribal council meetings quarterly. So the first Wednesday of every quarter is the regular RTC meeting. Would it be possible just to add an agenda item at the end of that meeting, financial information? Then it's on every, it's scheduled, everyone will know what it is. The next regular RTC meeting is in October, so we could start with this fiscal year 2026. Just a suggestion for council to consider. I don't know if we want the regular meeting, a financial meeting, then a special meeting in 1 month, but we could put this as an additional agenda item on the regular meeting agendas. Thank you.
How about we start out with it as an agenda item and see if we do need to break it off, and then we can work from there. But just adding it on right now is a pretty good idea. I like that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, I totally agree with that. That's a good idea. And also to add that, to put us in a resolution, so that's a requirement. If there's a new council that gets in next year, and if they want to do away with it, then they can do away with it. Thank
Sounds like
you.
a good idea. So you're acknowledging that there's no quarterly meetings right now, and we're gonna put in quarterly meetings. Cool, cool. Quarterly meetings. Does that sound good, Shane? For your discussion, everything's looking good.
Discussion, financial, budget discussion. I brought this up before. I think it was like last week or the week before, and myself and Miranda, and I can't remember who else. I think Dan was up there, up at Fortune Bay, and you guys were online, I do believe. And one thing we were talking about was the budget stuff between the tribal government and Fortune Bay. And what I would like to have put on a table for discussion is when the tribal council is going to make a request of Fortune Bay for a certain amount of money, as an example, $3 million for next year's budget, is that if we could request 2.5 million instead, and if the 105 money can make up that difference for operating costs, Fortune Bay could turn around and use that 500,000 that they don't have to send to the tribal council and start putting it into an official reserve. So that way, as time goes on, they'll continue to build a reserve. And then as our cannabis business comes into play, would it be able to submit funding to the tribal government? The other thing too is I keep pushing for this. We need to pay off that Y-Store loan and turn that into a trust, then work out a tax agreement. That'll start bringing in extra revenue as well. But there's a lot of stuff that could be done, that should be done to make this work. Jim?
I was at the meeting and we have thrown this out since like 2000. I don't remember how far back. I know at least 18 or 16 about doing what's called a revenue allocation plan, kind of for the profits from Fortune Bay. And we had talked about that. I was at that meeting and we talked about it and come back because maybe Fortune Bay can't even make a $2.5 million distribution kind of plan. And so it would be, the process would be that they figure out what their, there'd be a year lag in between. And so like if they were doing the 26 budget, they would look at their 24 budget and say, this is how much profit we had. This is how much needs to go to, and there was a percent in there for reserve too. To put towards a reserve, this much for debt service, this much for capital improvements, this much for distribution to the tribal government. And then they'd have us, and then we start our budget planning, and then we have to align our budgets.
That was the original intent of that meeting, was basically to sit down and say, this is what we're requesting. What can you guys give? Meaning Fortune Bay.
Yeah,
And if they can't make this 2.5 million as an example, then what can they give them? What do we have to make up as a tribal government?
that's why there's a lag, so that they have a solid number. So like I said, we would be looking at 24 budgets. And then going into 26, that's what, that's where we would be looking at. And so we would know as our programs are doing the budgets, and then as we work through our budget process, you know.
Sounds good. So Shane, I'd like to get, we were talking about, you wanted a budget discussion. I know what they're talking about and we speak about in our meetings. You just wanted making this public. You're trying to make this public? Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. I was just wondering, because we talk about this stuff in the plans, so I'm just wondering what was going on. All right, sounds
you.
good. Is that good, Shane? Is there anything else that you'd like to add to that budget discussion?
And then
All right, next we have a complaint by Perry Drift. Can we take a break real quick? I gotta use the restroom. Is that okay? I don't want to be disrespectful. We're gonna take a 10-minute break. All right, it looks like we're back here. We're gonna start back up and we left off. We're gonna speak. I'm sorry. There was a complaint by Perry Drift and he'd like to have it addressed. He'd like to address this complaint. So I suppose I'd like you to start out with reading your complaint there, Perry.
Randy, would I be able to have some assistance in just so they can see? Like, what- Yep. That's true.
Excuse me, before we start, I know that we always have, when comments are made, they're read aloud because we can't see them. They flash by our screen so fast and then the audience doesn't get to see them also. But there's a comment there and other comments have always been read aloud or questions. So can we have that one read aloud for the audience? Or can you see that far? No, my eyes are terrible.
The comment was, watch the recorded meeting, Shane. You do not need us to give you written statements. Us band members know where to find recorded meetings. You should know where to find them, Shane. We fear retaliation.
Thank you for reading that. Again, the gathering of statements, that was vital. So, just to point that out again, thank you.
Aşkı binasının sağ makvarını düdem. Zbikune zagan dunca ba. İyi du jines. Şimnaşçı geo gama. Maşı işuni ya. Gana wayna ma. Nishnabeg. Gete nishnabeg ban. Belma. Inunda wayna. Iwabandan na way. Ini gugu dan askana way sama way kumini kunu du kuishin. Abanagamad Stamin. Let's start. So this letter is dated, this complaint is dated June 10th of 2025. 9 a.m. is when I started the transcription from District 1 Representative Perry Drift's office. So this complaint was written and formulated when Shane Drift was the acting chairman. I passed this document to him in a meeting, in a public meeting, and he was going to, in return, turn it over to the TEC, but then Carlos got seated, so we passed that complaint on to him. And so I'll just go ahead and read it. The only thing that's missing from this is the attached meeting agendas from the past year, dating back to July 2024, when I first got seated. So I'll just begin. And I would like to have Kimberly Greiner come up to the panel just to confirm some of the information. Thank you, Kim. Right. Honoring Chairman Shane Drift, he's not acting chairman now, so I have to revise that. I hope all is well with you. Serving on the Bois Forte Tribal Council is an honor. The first year of my 4-year term is coming to an end. This job is not easy, and upholding council duties is imperative. With that being stated, I am filing a complaint under Article X, Section 2 of the MCT Constitution against Secretary Gijuk. The complaint cites malfeasance of tribal affairs and dereliction of duty as violations per Article X, Section 2 of the MCT Constitution. The complaint is coming from myself, Perry Drift, District 1 Representative. I will be providing evidence that clearly shows 2 separate issues pertaining to our current financial status. Terry Gijuk has not provided any quarterly financial updates / reports to the people and tribal council. I have been in office since July of 2024. Attached are Bois Forte Rtc meeting agendas dating back since July 16th, 2024. These RT meeting agendas clearly show Secretary Treasurer Terry Gijuk not providing a single financial update to the tribal council or people. The Secretary Treasurer of the Bois Forte Tribal Council, RTC, is responsible for managing the tribe's finances and records per resolution number 147-2005, Article 2, Section 4 in the Bois Forte RTC bylaws. Secretary Treasurer keeps detailed records of meetings and actions, maintains financial records, and provides quarterly reports and yearly audits to the tribal council. According to the Bois Forte RTC bylaws, the Secretary Treasurer also safeguards the tribe's funds, issues receipts, and procures audits as stated in the Bois Forte RTC bylaws. Now, here's a more detailed breakdown. Financial management. Secretary Treasurer maintains accurate financial records, including budget tracking, expenses, and preparing financial reports. Now, we are still stuck on the year audit. The audit of 2022 has not been completed yet. We are still in the same shape from when I first took office, and in meetings since September, I didn't want to be sitting here stuck in the same situation where we were at 8 months ago, and we are. And this isn't, I'm not making a mountain out of a molehill here. This is really serious, and this is really concerning. This is going to trickle down in a year and a half, and there's going to be band members, employees that are going to be losing their livelihood based off of this budget mishap. So Secretary Treasurer Terry Gijuk has not maintained the budget adequately, and due to this, the tribe has suffered a $5.7 million budget mistake. Long story short, to put this into like the most simplest terms, we blew a reserve. Everybody knows the terminology ace in the hole, right? Every team, every winning team or organization has a plan in motion. It's called the ace in the hole. If something goes bad, something goes wrong, that we have this reserve of money to save us, and we just shot it. We literally did. That's the whole point of this report and this complaint. We shot our reserve. We still have 3.5 years left of the Trump administration. That reserve, that tribal state aid money that's in this report, that over 4 million, and Kimberly Greiner stated in an earlier meeting, what if Fortune Bay can't give us the 2 million going further each year, 2 or 3 million? You know, this isn't a joke. This isn't a game. I understand that there are people very upset with me, but this is very alarming. And $6 million is $6 million. That's not, let me get back on topic. Reporting and auditing. Secretary Treasurer prepares quarterly reports to the RTC and the Tribal Council and submits an annual audit by a public accountant. Kimberly Greiner. Secretary Treasurer Tara Gizik has not provided any quarterly reports or annual audits since her time in office, which has been 3 years. See attached RTC agendas for proof. The tribe is also currently behind in our financial audits. Now, being behind in these audits has affected Boys and Girls Club funding. It has affected, and with these budget cuts coming, the base percentage I've heard is 10%. We can't even, I'm going to be honest with you guys, we can't even afford a forensic audit, even if we wanted to do one per policy. There's a lot of information that you guys aren't hearing or understanding, and that it's not being put to you in a right way. And this information is in real time. Safeguarding funds. Secretary Treasurer accepts, provides receipts for, and safeguards all funds and property of the band. Secretary Treasurer Tara Gizik has not safeguarded the funds due to the Tribal Council having to utilize state aid monies in the amount of $4,207,000 and 519 cents, and Fortune Bay funding in the amount of $2 million on the dot to cover the impending $5.7 million budget cost for the year 2026. It was a budget deficit. So in that last meeting, when we approved the 2025 budget, and that wasn't something to be celebrated. That's something to be worried about, because now we shot our ace in the hole in our reserve. What's going to happen next time when we have to approve the budgets next year? Where's that $4 million going to come from? Where's that $2 million from Fortune Bay going to come from? I can tell you right now, we know the pots of money that we have, and I'm giving you this information in real time, that the effects of what we just approved in the last meeting about this 2025 budget, we are going to feel those effects next year when we have to scrounge around and look for $5 million, $6 million. So when I walk in this building, and in the amount of time I do spend in this building, when I have to look at it, band members and employees, it's not that I don't want to be here. It's that how do I look somebody in the face, a band member or an employee or a staff who has put 15, 10, 20, 30 years here, and possibly have to look them in the face and tell them that their job or their livelihood could be at stake because of a budget mishap. It's not easy doing this job, and there's been times where I thought about it, where what do we do? How do you get the people to take this seriously? How do you get them to not know that this isn't just this is not a mountain out of a molehill, that this is a mountain that we are going to have to climb in 14 months' time. And things are fine now, but you're not feeling them now, but you will. And I just want to be, I'm not a whistleblower. I don't start drama. I don't do this for likes or anything on social media. I do this because this is the right thing to do. And I'll finish up reading my report now. So per the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe Constitution, a Secretary Treasurer is supposed to provide a financial quarterly update to the people and Tribal Council. I also stated in a meeting from last year about our financial audits and budgets being in disarray. Since that time, it has not improved or changed for the better. Under Article X, Section 2 of the MCT Constitution, it cites malfeasance of tribal affairs and dereliction of duty as basis for a seated TEC member of the MCT to be subject to possible censure. In my humble opinion, Secretary Treasurer Tara Gizik is guilty of malfeasance of tribal affairs and dereliction of duty shown by the poor financial status that the tribe is currently in due to her actions as Secretary Treasurer of the Boys for Band of Chippewa. To add to this complaint, on May 11th, 2025, 4 Boys for Band members, Donna Hoffer, Peter Boney, Rick Anderson, and Vicky Hackey, requested the financial status report of Fortune Bay Resort and Casino and other tribal enterprises. The update report was not provided by Secretary Treasurer Terry Gizik because she simply did not know, which is dereliction of duty because her job duties it is her responsibility to know the answers to these key financial questions. I have the attached report request from Donna Hoffer in the file folder as well. On to another matter regarding Secretary Treasurer Terry Gizik is the $5.7 million budget mistake we as a tribal council were made aware of on May 21st, 2025 by a financial budget meeting with Kimberly Greiner, Chief Executive Officer of Bois Forte Tribal Government. To cover this mismanaged budget, we had to utilize tribal state aid monies, $4,207,519.00 and $2 million of Fortune Bay funding to cover the $5.7 million budget mistake. A question was raised. What if the tribal council did not have this extra funding? And mind you, this funding did not come from business renovated places. It came from the state. It came from other entities. We have to stop depending on other entities to fix our mistakes and our mishaps. And I've said this before in meetings that we've grown healthily. We have as a tribe in an organization, but now we are in a time of budget constraints, budget mishaps, budget audits. We're shooting our reserves, grant funding being withheld, and the game plan. We're not game planning for nothing right now. So we're focusing on this software, this $600,000 software that's supposed to come in and save us. But that's why I raised that question. How you input this data, does it affect the outcome of what the true data really is? And I'm just really concerned because we're already in a budget and auditing mishap. What if inputting information after the software is bought for and paid for? The software isn't supposed to come online until January. For those of you that may or may not know. And there's a lot of data, and data, as we know, can be misconstrued, can be put in certain statistical categories where it can make it look like we're okay, but we're really not financially. So back on topic. This clearly shows that Secretary Treasurer Terry Gizik is not performing her job duties. If she would have been performing her duties, we could have avoided using tribal state aid monies. Shane Drift had requested the budgets and accounts of tribal monies last November 2024 and did not receive that information until May 21st, 2025. This is clearly dereliction of duty and mere malfeasance of tribal affairs due to Secretary Treasurer Terry Gizik's poor accounting management of the Bois Forte Band of Chippewas money. I am humbly asking you, Shane Drift, Acting Chairman of Bois Forte, to forward these Article X Section 2 violations on my behalf to the TEC Committee of the MCT for further review. End of report. And if there's any questions or concerns now, that was the report band members wanted to know. And this information is in real time. You can ask me, you can ask Kim, you can ask any one of us sitting here. Is this information true? Is this viable? Is this you can ask questions right now, and I'm done speaking for now. I presented my case, and it's up for the band members and the people to decide now. Mio.
Sounds good. Miigwech Perry. So I'd like to share with everybody, these complaints, they do go to a TEC member, and that would be me now. And I would review these, and I would have to back them in order to bring them forward. So I do have to review these things, and I didn't find it sufficient enough to bring forward. I'd like to share with you my notes on why. And then I have a response letter to Perry that I'll be giving him. I wasn't able to type it out because my computer doesn't have Word on it. I have to wait till payday. Then I'll buy Word for my computer. Then I could type the stuff up faster. All right. So my observations were the nature of the complaint. The letter from District 1 Rep Perry Drift alleges malfeasance and dereliction of duty, citing Article 10, Section 2 of the MCT Constitution. The main issue centers around the claim that there's no quarterly financial updates or audits that have been provided since July 16th, 2024. It cites a $5.7 million budget error and reliance on state aid monies and Fortune Bay funding to cover the shortfall. Documents referenced include RTC meeting agendas from July 24th to June 25 to show no financial updates were provided. The tone and the framing of the complaint is heavily accusatory and written in a repetitive manner. It lacks detailed financial evidence and alternative explanations for the budget issue. It references conversations and questions raised in meetings, but does not cite exact minutes, recordings, or written exchanges. The timing and the delay of this, the alleged violations span 11 months, yet the complaint is only being raised now in June 2025. No explanation is provided as to why these concerns were not raised earlier during RTC meetings, quarterly reviews, or budget sessions. And then the supporting documents. The core proof offered is a collection of meeting agendas that allegedly show the absence of financial reports. No mention is made of requests for reports made during council meetings or formal efforts to seek clarification over the past year. My issues with substantiation, there's no evidence of prior attempts to resolve this. If this was a persistent concern, then there should be documentation showing that it was raised during council meetings or informal memos. The budget shortfall blame. The $5.7 million figure is serious, but it's not clearly explained how this became a mistake attributed solely to one person. Meeting agendas as evidence as an agenda not listing a financial report doesn't confirm no report was given verbally, submitted later, followed up on. The chain of responsibility. It's like budgeting and financial review often involve multiple parties, not only the secretary treasurer. It's unclear what role the finance office, RTC even, and auditors played. The recommendations I got for addressing this are in the follow-up letter, but my final thought on this document is more like an allegation than a substantiated complaint. While concerns of financial reporting and transparency should always be taken seriously, the lack of documentation showing attempts to address the issues internally or during meetings weakens the case. A clear and fair internal review should come before any action is done at the MCT level. And the following is a letter that I prepared for Perry that he will get later when I can actually type it up on my computer here. To district, and dated today, 7/16/2025, District 1 Representative Perry Drift from Chairman Carlos Hernandez. The subject is response to the complaint regarding Secretary Treasurer Tara Gizik. Uju Perry. Miigwech for submitting your written concerns regarding Secretary Treasurer Tara Gizik, citing possible violations under Article 10, Section 2 of the MCT Constitution. I appreciate the effort you took to share your perspective and bring your concerns forward. As chairman, it is my duty to ensure all matters are handled fairly and with a commitment to truth, accountability, and good governance. After reviewing your submission, I would like to respond with the following. 1, the burden of evidence. Your letter references a span of nearly 1 full year from July 2024 to June 2025. At this time, the materials provided are not sufficient to support formal action or referral. If there are specific instances where duties were not fulfilled, such as missed financial reports, they must be supported by clear and documented evidence. This includes meeting minutes, agenda items, email correspondence, or other relevant records. The timeline for documentation. In order to move this matter forward responsibly, I'm requesting that you submit any supporting materials within 30 calendar days from the date of this letter, which includes RTC agenda or meeting minutes showing the lack of financial reports, written communication or documentation of questions raised that were not addressed, any independent financial assessments or third-party findings that support your concerns. Clarifying roles and responsibilities. Budgeting and financial oversight involve multiple layers of responsibility. In addition to the secretary treasurer, roles such as accounting and senior management also participate in financial planning and review. It is important that any claims of neglect are clearly supported and properly directed. For the next steps, once you have submitted all documents within the 30-day period, I will review it in full and determine whether further steps are warranted, including the possibility of an internal review or an outside audit. Until this time, this matter will remain open but not forwarded to the MCT TEC committee. My goal is to address all concerns with fairness, protect the integrity of our leadership, and uphold our shared responsibility to the band. Miigwech again for your attention to this matter. Please direct your materials to my office by August 15th, 2025. In respect, Carlos Hernandez, Chairman, Boys Fort Band.
We got a couple of comments or a couple of stuff I need to say. You know, with the MCT Constitution, it clearly defines the roles of each, the chairman and the secretary treasurer and the committee members and what their job duties are and the responsibilities are. It's clearly in that. That document was there well before I was on tribal council. It is on the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe website for you guys to look at as band members, to understand it yourself, what the job duties are. Now, when you look at the Constitution itself, it clearly states who interprets the Constitution. It's not a chairman, it's not a lawyer. It says in there clearly the MCT TEC interprets the Constitution. So I think, you know, with this process, my understanding was that Perry didn't submit those to be interpreted by you or me. He submitted those to be interpreted by the MCT TEC committee. And by not doing that, not following through with that, basically you circumvented the process, my opinion. And moving forward, in which it should be up to the MCT TEC to make that determination, because they are the sole authority of the MCT. Clearly states that in the Constitution. Now, with that, you know, with this money, if you look at the RTC budget that we request every year from Fortune Bay, it's $3 million. This budget that was approved a while back, 5.7, almost 6 million, it almost doubled. Now, I said this in the previous council meeting. I think it was either the last one or the one where I was still the acting chairman. The state balanced their budget. Now, the federal government, Trump administration, they passed their big, beautiful bill. Now, how is it going to throw off the state budget? If it throws it off, make it become unbalanced, they're going to have to make future cuts. And like I said before, when we started receiving the tribal state aid monies, that we as Boys Fort cannot become dependent upon that money for the purpose that it could be taken away. This is not a requirement. They're just giving it to the tribes. Now, if they have to make more cuts because if their budget becomes unbalanced again, one of my concerns is that they're going to cut that tribal state aid monies next year. And we already know that there's cuts coming down. We know that. And it's a huge concern. You know, and we as a tribe, we need to come together and find out how can we survive beyond this administration that's in place now, the Trump administration, because who knows what's going to be cut next year. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I was just going to read the comments online. One is Kimberly Greiner isn't a public accounting. That is a state license and a regulated term. And then why did you not submit then, Shane? Perry gave it to you first. Why pass it off to Carlos?
I did. I stated in the last meeting, I went down and met with the executive director, Luke Warnschultz. I met with him, handed him the complaints. I also sent an email, and I stated that at the last meeting. I sent an email to the MCT TEC officers requesting that this be put on the agenda. I stated that on my group page. So it's well documented. Thank you.
Sounds good. I think this was a good discussion, Perry.
Just a small comment that I'm noticing that, and maybe your interpretation of MCT Constitution, and then separately, boys sport bylaws are different than mine. MCT has a board, which I'm not part of. There's 4 seats on there: president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. And there always has been. They delegate to the legislative committee, legislative subcommittee, which I sit on with my fellow secretary treasurers. And we report quarterly. That's where that quarterly comes from. It's not in the boy sport bylaws. The boy sport bylaws say annually, and we do that at the state of the band. So there's not a combination of, and when you're referencing secretary treasurer, it's from the MCT secretary and treasurer. Maybe that's the confusion. Because we do, at the MCT on the legislative, we do a quarterly report and we approve that. We do that collectively as a governing body. And then separately, Boys Sport here, Tribal Council, we do that collectively as a governing body, and we delegate Kim to do a report at the state of the band annually. I think that might be the confusion.
Sounds good. So Perry wanted to get this discussion out there because he wanted it known in public that I didn't bring that forward to the TEC. And I was glad that he wanted to bring it at the meeting because then I was able to explain why. And if I'm wrong, now you all know that you got something to come after me for. Because, you know, if I'm not doing my job right, I want you guys to come after me too. So transparency is at its finest, I believe, you know.
That would be all of us collectively. Because we're the governing body.
Pete, you have something to say?
I just got a few things. Again, thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to speak. My name is Pete Drift, Board member and elder. Again, don't let anyone throw smoke up in anyone's, you know, I've talked with members of the TEC. It is a secretary's, that's why we label it secretary treasurer. You're in charge of more of money. You got to know where it is, where we're at all times. And we could lose funding. Again, with the Trump just cutting education, you know, I'm glad I work for a tribe that has a big reserves because they planned for these cuts. They seen these cuts coming. And Mr. Chairman, you know, please be mindful next year about this meeting because I make a note of this meeting. And if our members, we start laying off our members and you were warned about it, you know, you just be mindful. Okay?
Oh,
Thank you.
I understand. I'm the face of the band now, and everybody knows we're going towards a tough time. I probably won't make it past these 3 years because I'm going to be the face of what's coming up. So, thank you.
I'd like to make another comment. Sorry, Kim, if you have a few comments. But I would just like to acknowledge that receiving this information is difficult, you know, and I'm willing to sort things out and be accommodating. But just make it known that I'm calm, cool, and collected. I am not making anybody feel uncomfortable, I hope. And that's how I receive information. I receive it well. Miigwech.
Appreciate it. I appreciate everybody's civility today.
I'll just mention one thing here, you know, and Shane did mention the email to President LaRock, Vice President Jackson, Secretary McCord, and Treasurer finding that he did bring this up, and this was before Carlos got here. I don't see no response. I don't know of any anything of if there was any response from any of the four individuals that were given this letter with, that was shared with the executive director. I I don't know where it went. I don't know what their feelings are, and if Shane knows why this didn't go anywhere, I'd like him to please share.
Carlos? Do you want me to read the comment?
Yep.
Okay. Another comment. I do not believe anyone is denying what the secretary treasurer duties are. Why haven't you all, the council, who raising this concern now, this should have been your priority when you were all first seated? Why haven't you made it a point to ensure all council duties are being met? Shane, you were giving this information. Why did you bring it to TEC? You cannot blame anyone for circumventing.
Thank you.
Then comment, does anybody else have any comments? We have somebody coming up to the podium. Marissa. I'm sorry.
Marissa Good Sky, band member. I'm just wondering if it's gonna be in the meetings that during this discussion, Shane got up and left and wasn't listening to the whole discussion that he was a part of. So I just wanted to make sure that that was in the meetings, in the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments? What, that was excellent discussion. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, Perry? I just don't want, I don't want you to.
No, I just wanted to present what I had written. That was all. And if any band members had questions or concerns, they could bring them to.
Perfect. Awesome. If anybody else has any concerns, they can address them to Miranda. Oh, somebody's asking if you can clarify what Representative Robert was saying, Shane?
When I sent that email, I never got a response from anybody. So just to get that noted.
Okay, he's saying he hasn't got a response yet, so. Much appreciated. I think that was there another one comment? I think that
Kyla.
was our last added one.
Sorry, I just don't know if we want to read the
Oh,
comments.
sure.
or,
Yes,
you
go
know,
ahead and read
so
those.
that everyone sees them. Yes, please share what you can, Shane. And then is Shane not going to answer District Rep Moyer? And then Shane, we are asking you. And then, so does that mean they didn't find anything also then like Carlos?
Sounds good. You wanted to answer those? And that would be the last comment we're taking
did
from
try
online,
to-
please. Thank you.
I did try to submit, I did submit it to Luke. I did try to have it put on the agenda of the MCT. Or the MTCTC meeting and in between that process, when I was done being acting chairman and Carlos became the chairman, that's why I handed it over to him. Because he's the chairman. And I don't know why the other ones didn't respond. I sent an email, I CC'd the council. I CC'd the Voice for Tribal Council on this. I can't speak for the TEC members. Thank you.
Again, Peter Drift, Voiceford Band Member Elder. It's probably because it has to be presented by either Carlos Hernandez, Voiceford Chairman, to be presented to the DEC. That's why they're not going to review it. Okay.
I'd like to note and add to Mr. Drift and also Mr. Drift. You can go to any TEC member to submit your information. But they would have to probably vet it themselves and make sure it's, factual.
Thank you.
Hey, Squidge, Boys Work Band member. Just want to say, I know we're worrying about the times that we're in now and looking for money. I just want to say too that Shakopee's financial advisors did reach out to me. Apparently they're trying to reach out to the Boys Work Council, but they weren't getting no response. So we're meeting with them Thursday and we're looking to bring in some revenue, probably about $3 million. So we'll be meeting with them on Thursday. So I mean, just be aware out there, look at your emails because they said they were reaching out to you guys and they weren't getting no responses. So just FYI.
Much appreciated. Awesome. Does anybody else have any comments or for this discussion? I already cut off online discussion. I'll look into that. Figure out what's going on with that Shakopee funding for the online member, but thank you online. I think that was it for the agenda items and for the added ones.
Before we adjourn, can I just mention, just a simple ask that we, schedule, this next meeting as soon as possible for the meeting minutes that have been tabled so we can discuss and bring our questions in. And I'd also ask to say, just say, did we all see the footage, all the evidence, whatever from Fortune Bay? Carlos, I think you should
I have
be,
not, yet.
that should be a priority on all 5 of us seeing it. And that's about all. We'll stop with that.
Sounds good. I did have a question. Is council involved with that ethics committee? I don't gotta go to the hearing, right? It's not like I'm gonna run it or nothing. It's not gonna be like that community meeting where I show up and I'm the one running it. No, I'm just, okay.
No, the ethics hearings are facilitated by the ethics committee.
Okay.
I'd move to adjourn if we're all good.
Second.
Moved by Robert, second by Shane. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Thank you all for joining us today. Appreciate it. Adjourned at 11:11 a.m.